Hey, welcome to the workshop. So today we're going to be talking about winter and glowing and getting through your trauma and lowering stress levels. But how is this all going to come together? Well, I'm going to tell you. Believe it or not, this was really inspired by my 3-year-old grandson. We were talking about nature and how different parts of nature glow, how there are fireflies and why fireflies glow, why there's some plants that glow at night, why there's some sea life that glows at night. And then we started talking about winter and how winter has this amazing ability when there's snow on the ground and with the moonlight, it actually becomes lighter. So even though the days are shorter and it's a different type of a light, we can still appreciate some of the light that winter brings us, which made me think about how can we appreciate some of the light that we feel when we feel like we're at our darkest moments. So let's get into that. Okay, so the number one thing that I want you to recognize in this workshop, it's going to be lecture focused. You're going to need to stop the recording every now and then, and you're going to probably want a paper and pencil with you. Like you're going to want to take notes. You're going to want to do some of the exercises. It's the best way. Let me also state that on my website, go to michellepava.com or thefinancetherapist.com, either one of those two websites, and you're going to find a self-healing journal. That's also a way that you can work on this and have more clarity. And let me explain why. By the way, it's free. Let me explain why that's important. It's important for you to have either that journal or really have organization in your healing, whether you're working with me, your therapist, a support group, my support group, online like this, content creators. You want to be able to put everything together, including books you're reading, music that inspires you, prayers that inspire you. Because when we do self-healing, which most people do, even if they're going to a therapist, there's usually a lot of self-healing going on. Most people don't organize it. They just sort of take it in and it feels good and then it sort of goes away. We need to organize it because if we don't have clarity in organization, it becomes chaos and it's just more stuff that we have to do that we feel maybe guilt that we haven't moved forward with or some shame, whatever. So go to my website and grab that planner so that you have more clarity around whatever you're doing in your self-healing, whether it's me or with anyone else. It's free. Anyway, really listen to some of these quotes. One, there is no growth without real feeling. Now think about that. If you don't have true feelings, if you push your feelings away, if you're in denial, you're not going to heal very easily, right? So this is also why you want to write things down and feel them. Even if you don't digest them right away, go back to them when you're ready. So write things down, write your dreams down, and we're going to be talking about dreams in a little bit, but we want to be able to do that. Another one, this is a deep one. This might make you get a little choked up. When I first read it, it really hit me. Children not loved for who they are do not learn how to love themselves. That's huge, right? I need you to journal. What does that mean to you? Now, maybe you felt completely loved growing up and you felt very accepted by your teachers, your family, friends, whatever, and that's great. But if you did not have that, I need you to write down how that makes you feel. Children not loved for who they are do not learn to love themselves. That's deep. Okay, let's go to the next one. As adults, we must learn to nurture the lost child, which kind of goes hand in hand with what I just said, right? So the lost child is unique. The lost child is the part of us that we did not get to express, even if we had really great parents, through no fault of their own, because of how they were brought up, because of limits in what they had available. They maybe did not give us everything that we needed. And that means that part of us was lost. And that's why a lot of times people in their adult life don't have quite purpose, or they don't understand why purpose is important, or they feel some lack of being fulfilled in spite of having all the check boxes off. Maybe what's important to you is being married and having a home. Well, if those check boxes are off, why don't you feel fulfilled? And it's partially probably because of this lost child. So you might want to journal about that, but we're going to go much deeper in a little bit. I just want to run some things by you to kind of get you in the right mindset, right? Okay, here's the next one. Only by discovering and loving the lost goddess or child within our body do we hear our own authentic voice. Now, think back. If you don't know where part of you is, if you feel like some part of you is unfulfilled, or you did have trauma or stress or anxiety in your childhood or past, part of you might feel that it's pushed down or just gone, lost. Then how can you properly express yourself if part of you is missing? You need the full self to truly express yourself, right? So that is also something that we're going to be working on. Really important work here, okay? When you dive deep into yourself, that's the most important thing you can do for yourself. It really is. And it helps all of your relationships. Next thing, and I'm going through these really quickly, and we'll get to the next thing in a minute. Recognizing the difference between love and power is difficult if we were raised in a home where power was disguised as love. This is this hits hard, right? Because if you were in a childhood where the focus was on listening to your parents always, or being controlled, or doing what the status quo of the family wanted, you did not have authenticity, and therefore you were not loved for who you were. And right now, this might be, sadly, one of the first times you're realizing that. Maybe it's something you already realized, but this might be one of the first times you're realizing it. And that's painful. So, especially if this is feeling painful to you, please know I have a support group. Go to my website, try it out. I have a trial for $4.95, I think it is, for the month. Try it out, or see your therapist, or join a support group near you. But do something. If this is feeling a little overwhelming, like, whoa, this is way heavier than I expected, then you need to get help. Okay. You deserve to feel loved and accepted and fulfilled. So now we're going on to the actual workshop. That was sort of the primer, and letting you see how there's different nuances where we might not feel much light. We might feel like we're in that darkness of winter and that coldness, right? So one of the areas that you might have lacked growing up is hearing and feeling the term I love you. And so, uh, if you've been in a childhood where your accomplishments were rewarded, which is fine, but if it was only your accomplishments, if you had shame or blame, or you felt like you let someone down if you did not accomplish something, and you felt like your love was hinged on how good you could be. So, like, if you went to dance class and you did well in dance class, and people talked about how great it was and they loved you so much and you're such a great little girl because you did that, okay, that's great. But what about when you did not? Like, if you didn't want to continue with dance class, were you met with, it's okay, I love you anyway. Don't worry about it. It's a hobby, no big deal. Or was it, we paid for these lessons and you need to do this? Did you start to feel like there was a lot of conditions to your love and ability to be loved and accepted? Because being accepted is part of being loved. So you can hear I love you all day long, but if you're not treated with love, you start to not trust the term I love you. And that can relay into your relationships with friends and romantic partners throughout life. Even if you've been married 20 or 30 years, you might still struggle with it because your formative years had that dual meaning, right? So understand that love is a key to healing. And if you're struggling with loving yourself, trusting love, trusting the love around you, you're going to have a harder time healing until you begin to trust yourself and trust love. Another one, and I want you to journal all of this, okay? So write I love you, and that's a journal page, okay? The next journal page, I hear you, okay? This is a big one. Um, this is a big one because it ties into I love you, because you have to be able to express yourself and be accepted for who you are. So if you um, are told, don't cry, look at me, what you feel is not important, but what I feel is what I need to push onto you, and I'm the parent and you're the child, and I'm in power and you're not being heard. Okay. And so if you have to learn to suppress your inner voice, you're going to be very unhappy. You're going to feel like everything that you do is wrong. You're going to feel unsupported no matter what anyone does in the future. So even if you meet someone years later, if this is how you were treated in childhood, you might struggle. And that struggle can be really painful. So understand that if you do not express your inner voice, you will have a hard time with dialogue because you were told that you can't, that if you had an opinion, you were talking back, right? So what you might need to do is journal and artwork and some non-dialogue ways of expressing yourself as well, even with music or watching a movie and discussing the movie. Very cathartic, it's not about you, it's about what's happening in the movie, but yet touching on topics that move you within the movie. Does that make sense to you? If not, just comment. Anyway, next journal page. How often did you hear, I'm sorry, or you didn't deserve that? So listen to what I'm saying, okay? So you were innocent. You were an innocent child. And sometimes bad things happen to you. And sometimes parents made mistakes. How often did they acknowledge their mistakes? How often did they acknowledge that you didn't deserve X, Y, or Z and that you deserved better? If you didn't hear that a whole lot, then you learned that you deserved everything that happened, right? Even if you saw them feeling a little shame or guilt, they weren't expressing it to you that you didn't deserve that. So we might grow up feeling like, well, bad things happen. I should just expect that. So I need you to journal about that. That's a biggie. Okay. So these are just some mini exercises before we get to the big stuff. But I mean, this is big stuff, right? So we're going to talk about dreams now. Okay. Our dreams are an extension of who we are. But in our society, we're taught that they don't matter. We're taught that, like, oh yeah, every now and then if you have a weird dream, like, what's the symbol? But we're taught that in general it doesn't matter, that our body mind connection stops when we decide to go to sleep. But our dreams are sort of like, let me put this paper down real quick. Our dreams are sort of like a puzzle, okay? So all of the different feelings, experiences now and in the past, and worries about the future are each a puzzle piece. And every night when we go to sleep, several times during the night, all of these puzzles fly up in the air and they come down, but they don't fit. They're not like fitting like the puzzle should fit. And so the storyline and the surroundings and the landscape just don't make sense. So we wake up like, what? What was that about? Like, that didn't even make sense. Because it didn't make sense, it must not mean anything. But what it really is you're trying to make sense of the illogical that you haven't created clarity for yet. So as dreams become more and more logical to you, or when you start to figure them out what they might mean, then you notice that you don't have those dreams anymore. Sometimes people have reoccurring dreams because there's some big issue that needs to be worked out, and your body's like, listen to me. And you're either not or you can't at that time. So pay attention to your dreams. Now, understand that dreams are a gift that our subconscious gives us. And also understand that most dreams, I think it's like 95 to 98% of them, are either uncomfortable or considered nightmares. Dreams are odd, okay? They are not like pleasant movies. There's not a Hollywood group behind them saying like, okay, we want this to be a feel good moment. It's just your body saying like, pay attention. Just like if you have a stomach ache, it's pay attention, don't eat that food. Pay attention, don't eat so much. So dreams are sort of like a pay attention as well to your emotions, and that always doesn't feel good. And that's okay. So don't think that because you're having uncomfortable dreams that there's something wrong with you or that you're waiting for a happier dream. Traditionally through life, they will always be somewhat uncomfortable, and every now and then there will be nightmares. That's par for the course. Don't think that reflects on your emotional health. What I want you to know here is that, and we've already discussed it here in my notes, I want you to know that your dreams are rooted very deeply in your subconscious, and they're there, and you're remembering them because they need to be worked out. Now, sometimes when you don't remember your dreams, it's because you're not getting enough sleep or you're waking up at a time where the dreams are um, not happening, or in the middle of it where it's just like you're woken up too quickly. You need to gradually wake up usually and it's usually weekends that people remember their dreams more because it's a gradual waking up. You're not on a time clock, and it's a little bit more organic. So being well rested is part of the healing process for a million reasons, but also because you can more easily remember your dreams. So that's important. I want you to now, this journaling activity is going to be just a commitment to write about at least one dream in the next 30 days. If you can do more than that, please do more than that. I don't want you to analyze your dreams by going into Google or a dream book and saying, like, oh, I dreamt about a key, and they say that a key means this, or this culture says that a key means that. You can't do that. They're all good, and there's some credibility to some of it, but in general, what does a key, if you're dreaming of a key, what does the key mean to you? Because what it means to someone else is analyzing how they feel about it. And this is something that often happens in the therapy room, where I will ask someone, well, what does it mean to you? And let's talk about how what your meaning is, because everything is symbolism. We all have different mannerisms and ways of speaking and cultures and backgrounds. We're very alike in many ways, but we're very unique in a lot of ways too. Therefore, our symbolism and our dreams should be treated as unique and special as you are, not lumped together just like you're a cookie cutter, right? Like, I don't want that for you. So don't put yourself in that space where you're just a cookie cutter. Like, think about yourself as very individual, and the symbols are very individual to you. That's important. And if you have any questions on that, contact me. Again, go to my website, contact me. Okay, now we're going to talk about archetypes. So, archetypes are just symbols that are more personified. So, I might say that you are the queen archetype. Archetypes have a light and dark side, interestingly, as we're talking about light and dark. So if I said you're the queen archetype, it might mean that you're very in control and you have a royal air about you, and you feel like you want goodwill for all and you like nice things, maybe. But the dark side of a queen archetype is that you're separate from people, and that you're controlling, and that you don't like to settle at all. So there's always light and dark. So you need to look at archetypes that might be popping up in your dreams and how you view winter. Believe it or not, how we view seasons and the world around us has a lot to do with archetypes. So if snow was a person, what would that person look like to you? I mean, beyond a snowman, like, what would that be? And would it be magical and beautiful, or would it be oppressing? Start thinking in terms of archetypes for the season as well as your dreams. Like, what type of archetypes are popping up in your dreams? I want you to hold on here. Identify archetypes that we can activate for healing, and also our feminine wounds. So, as you get these archetypes, I want you to make sure that you're, once you get them, that you're looking at how they could help you. So, for instance, let me get one. So if I thought about a winter tree, and I keep looking out here because that's my window. If I was thinking about a winter tree, and there's no leaves or anything, I actually see a winter tree as transitioning into something powerful, because I know that the leaves have fallen, they're warming the roots, and they're also giving a lot of nourishment to the roots. There's that beautiful abscission that's happening. So when I think about a tree in the winter, at first glance, it's like, oh, it's kind of depressing, because I prefer to look at a tree that's beautiful with color. But when I look at a tree in winter, I'm mesmerized by the fact that that tree is doing a lot of energy work right now, a lot of growth work, like we are in winter. And so the symbol of that, the archetype of that, might be a transformational moment in therapy. So maybe my archetype would be transformation, and that would look like a woman. Uh, the archetype for that would look like a woman who is maybe slender and tall, and maybe her hair kind of looks like branches coming out and so forth. So that would be the archetype. Now, how can we activate that archetype to help us in our life? Well, right now, I kind of said it, right? That archetype from me would be that archetype, transformation. The archetype of transformation would be a woman who is going to aid me in transforming and taking everything that's fallen from me, things that I thought I've lost, and how am I going to regain them? What will my spring look like? So, how will I bring that back into my life? So that's what I want you to do. I want you to think of one or two archetypes. And if you can think of one, drop a comment below. Or if you're seeing this in my email list, you can hit reply and let me know as well. Let's have a discussion. So if you're already in my group or in my email community, we can actually have a discussion about this. Or if you're seeing this somewhere else, you could just drop a comment. So, or you could just join my community and talk about it. Anyway, so we need to synthesize our dreams and we need to go into fairy tales. Now, this is where I want to tell you a story. So this story is adapted from a Cherokee story, and I'm adapting it to the female form. Okay. I want you to listen to the story, and then I want you to see yourself in all of the different characters. Once upon a time, there was a little sparrow female, and she had a family, and they were getting ready to go down south. They were ready. They were ready to leave and fly. And she hurt her wing. So she hurts her wing, and she's like, she wants the best for her family, right? As many women do. And she's sacrificing. And she said, I need you all to just fly down south. I don't want you to weather the storm with me, the storms of winter and the dark days and the not having enough food. I need you to go to safety. So she tells Sparrow Guy, Sparrow Kids, hit the pike. And it's cheerful, but they know it's the right thing to do. And she said, I will mend my wing and I will meet you down there. Just please, just go. She puts on a brave face and sends them off. They go, and now she's alone. And now the first snow happens, and she is in this little nest, and she's like, I'm freezing. I have no food, and I can't fly. So she kind of like hobbles, half flies down. She's on the ground. She's hopping around, and she goes to the elm tree and says, can you help me? They can't. They have no leaves. They have nothing to help her with. She goes over to the maple tree. Can you help me? They have nothing to give her. And she keeps going everywhere. And like the mighty oak tree, nobody can help her because they are all taking time for themselves to heal. They have dropped their leaves. They are conserving as much energy, and they're not able nor willing, if they could, to help her. So she's at the bottom, she's at the ground and near a shrub, and she's crying. She doesn't know what she's going to do. She has no food. She has she's cold. She has no shelter, and her wing is broken. She can't fly. She can't be who she is. And all of a sudden, this pine tree says, hey, I hear you down there. Now, I have these horrible pointy needles, and I'm sticky, and I'm not great, but I will give you whatever I can give you. How can I help you? She looks up, and she's just so happy. So she goes under the pine tree, and there's already a lot of pine needles that are fallen, and they're really keeping the ground warm. And she starts to warm up a little bit, and she can hop to the first branch. And then she can hop up a little bit more. And in the sticky needles, there's some bugs, and she's able to eat some bugs. And she starts to feel better. And that pine tree has helped her. And she ends up flying away and never forgetting that the pine tree helped her when no one else would help her. And the pine tree felt like it had nothing to give. It wasn't as beautiful as the maple or the oak. It didn't have the same whatever. And the reward, though, by the universe or God or whoever you want to say, the reward, the fairy tale of this is that the pine tree was gifted as being evergreen. It would never lose its leaves. And in spite of the fact that it was pointy and sticky, it would be a symbol of growth and hope. So that's the story of this little sparrow. And so how are you either the pine tree or the sparrow? How are you both? How are you the family that needs to just go away? How are you the oak or the elm or the maple? So I want you to just journal about that. When you journal about that, you're going to start seeing other people in your life. And these are going to be archetypes. The sparrow is an archetype, the pine tree is an archetype. They're all archetypes. And you are part of all of them. And many of the people who have been in your life are those archetypes as well. So I want you to journal about that. That's a big one. The next thing that I want you to do is that I want you to think about winter as this, like, it's a long night. The whole winter season is a long night. Okay. And I want you to think about your healing process. I want you to think about how you can take light and where you can see light in winter. Where can you glean light from the moon, from the snow? In the shorter days, can you honor the midday light a little bit more? Can you try to get outside? Can you try to get near a window? But also, in your stress, in your trauma, in your healing, how can you find light? What are different ways that you can do that? How can you nurture yourself? Maybe yin yoga, maybe bubble baths. Like, what are ways that you can heal? So we're going to wrap up right now. I'll take questions later from the group, but I will talk to you soon. If you have any questions, let me know. And if you're getting this on email, you're going to see some notes. Okay, bye.